Hey, it's Chris. Got your popcorn ready? It's gonna be a good one. 4 reasons not to get Elden Ring the board game, and 2 reasons to strongly consider getting it. Grab your popcorn, let's go. Let's get right into it, right from the get-go. Elden Ring, the board game, number 1. Why shouldn't you get it? Because this isn't Elden Ring. This is Elden Ring. This is about Elden Ring 20% of the game, 20%-ish. Are you okay with that? Are you okay with, getting about that much? Because you're going to have an experience. You're going to have an Elden Ring experience, but you're not going to have the Elden Ring experience that if you're one of those people who's heavily migrating over from the video game side of things, it's not going to be the whole shebang there. It's just not. And that's okay. You just need to know that going in. But if you're expecting the whole shebang, if you're expecting to fight all of the iconic figures, the iconic bosses, the NPCs, the upgrades in, every way, unique shape, form of how you want to spec your class and, customize this and that, it's not going to be that. It's going to be a fraction of that. And you just have to realize that as the most important point overall. Right behind that is number 2. Don't buy this because, literally for the cost right now, when we pull up the latest pledge here for $432 for the all-in, here is the PlayStation 5 Gods of War Ragnarok bundle going for $559. So you can get PlayStation 5 and Gods of War Ragnarok, or if you just want to get the PlayStation 5 console over here from PlayStation.com, it's going to cost you about $540 shipped, and you go over to Walmart and you get the additional $35 worth of Elden Ring right here, and you're looking at about $570. So you're looking for about $70 more for the whole game. And $70 more for the whole game, and maybe $500 for 20%, going back to point number 1. And tied right along with this is going to be, can you afford to tie up $500 for the next 2 years? Because this delivery date right now is May 2024. May 2024. And that's if things go right. And that's if with all the expansion stuff goes right in production, goes right in shipping. And if the last 2 or 3 years have shown us that that's not necessarily the case. And if you've ever backed anything else on Kickstarter or crowdfunding in general, you also know that that never happens. It's rare and few far in between. So you're looking potentially 6 months later. So end of 2024. What if you didn't get this until 2025? Still okay then? Question mark. Just asking. Let's say you are interested in getting the game. Let's say you're not interested in getting it all though. And especially if you're one of those people who wants to get some of it now and maybe get some of it later. Well, you can't, because you're going to miss out on iconic enemies, locations that are now already being marked as Kickstarter exclusive. Now, I don't know what's going to happen, but they say Kickstarter exclusive, which means, in my language, not at retail. Now, Steamforged has done some things that have gone to their shop, but I don't know exactly how exclusive they have been in the past with their previously marked Kickstarter exclusives. So take that for what you will, because previously, in the most recent couple campaigns, there have been more non-gameplay, right? With Monster Hunter, as well as I think even with Bardsong, they were non-gameplay exclusives. So if you missed out on the exclusives, it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't gameplay stuff that you were already missing. And if you're getting Elden Ring, this is grasping on the straws, the very strong bamboo straws of FOMO, because you're missing gameplay content now. And you have to feel like that's an issue, especially if you're one of those people who, go back to point number 1, wants Elden Ring, the gameplay, right? Elden Ring, the experience as a whole, not just Elden Ring. Now, the next point I'm going to put up there is that having read through the rule book and looked at everything on the page, I don't see anything that really makes me go, this is super unique, right? Like all the time we go, I need this game because it fills a spot in my collection. I need this game because it's completely different. I like Bullet Heart from Level 99 Games. It's completely unique. I have nothing else like it, right? Something along those lines that you go, okay, I can justify having this one. I can justify having this one. And there are plenty of dungeon crawls. There are plenty of campaign narrative games like this one that are doing things dramatically different. Lands of Galzier just recently, very different. Definitely different than other things that are in your collection, for example. But having read this, again, work in progress, 40-page partial rulebook, it doesn't leave me going, wow, this is really innovative. Wow, this is really different. Wow, this is really something unique that I have not seen before. It seems like a combination of Dark Souls, Kingdoms Forlorn, and Primal The Awakening with a little Skyrim tossed in. A combination of those 4 games. Nothing that I haven't seen in some way, shape, or form along those lines, which is fine, but there's also nothing that makes me go, wow, this is really gonna be a completely unique Elden Ring experience apart from anything else that I've ever seen out in the board game market that's gonna be completely unique to something else in my collection. Because I guarantee you, if you're heavily looking at this game and even watching this video, you have or have at least seriously considered at least one of those other 4 games that I just mentioned. And if you already have one of those other 4 games or more than one, is this really gonna be that different? I don't get that impression right now. Are they doing some unique things, some tangential things to the mechanisms that the other things have done? Absolutely. It's not a copy or not anything like that in any way, shape, or form am I saying. But the mechanisms in which they're utilizing the decks, the combat, the attack system, the cards in which they're going to be interacting. I mean, we've seen heavily previously with something like Primal the Awakening. We've seen something with a narrative campaign moving around, a la Mage Knight or Euthia or those games. I'm not going to say, again, don't put words in my mouth. They're not the same. But we have seen something very similar, and it's a derivative, which is great because innovation breeds competition, and so we get to see new things. But is this going to be drastically different enough in a slightly different enough way to make you feel like it's that good? Because again, I'm not saying that like I'm comparing it to all of the dungeon crawlers out there, but I'm comparing it to the ones that is most close to, and I haven't seen anything yet from that aspect that makes me go, yeah, really, this is really cool. Now, again, I'm going to take the last point here as just a side note. How do you feel also from the gameplay standpoint where you finish a fight and you recharge to full health? Does that really give you the full Elden Ring feel? Because right now in the rule book, it says when you complete a fight, you go right back up to full health and you're kind of there. The whole premise of these games, of why people love these games, the Dark Souls, the Bloodborns, Elden Ring, is that it's hard, it's tough, it's brutal, and it's not easy, and it's cumulative, and you get taken out because of X, Y, or Z. And do you really want that as an element of things or not? Do you want it to stay true or not as well? And that sort of leads me, I'm going to bring up a neutral point here as well. How far does it have to be away from Elden Ring, the video game, to make you want it if you've played that? How close does it have to be to Elden Ring, the video game, to make you actually feel like you're playing Elden Ring, the video game? And that's something that, again, it's about half a dozen people right now in the world that are going to be able to halfway answer that question. And most of them probably can't, because again, what we're looking at for most of the content that's out there already are partialities of a partiality. Think about that for a second. That's what you're seeing. Are you willing to take a risk? It's too far in one direction or the other on that scale of things, either being way too far away from what it is or way too close to what it is. And again, I'm not saying it's either one, but something to think about. Now, 2 reasons you really might want to be looking at this game. If you are an Elden Ring junkie, this is approved by the people who made Elden Ring. They say in the comment section that they've been working on this game for like somewhere between 2 to 3 years. So they've got a lot of input. They've gotten a lot of blessing. The miniatures are all being pre-approved. They're how the original company that makes Elden Ring wants it to be. So that has to give you some confidence that they're saying, okay, this is going to have some significant importance from that standpoint, right? Confidence right then and there. The other thing that cannot be understated as a second reason to possibly consider this as a real positive, Sherwin, the designer, the main lead designer on this game. The Dark Souls revised core set, which I've heard is significantly better. He's also done the Resident Evil stuff. Also done, I think, some of the Monster Hunter stuff, or I think that's the other designer, Matt, as well. But those games are the ones that have really sort of been getting better and better and better and better. Say what you will about some of the early Dark Souls, Horizon, that sort of thing, right? And so that's sort of some confidence there in saying, okay, I think I know what I'm getting because I've seen some of the track record that has been brought out by these people. And that's encouraging in that way, shape, and form. It is. The other thing that I can see also being a pro-con here is the last point that I'm going to throw out there for you to be aware of. When you go to the rule book, it already states that there are 4 different modes that you can play in. You can play in standard, exploration, gauntlet, and narrative. So as I'm always concerned with these games, you can play cooperative, you can play competitive, you can play solo, right? Well, it has a solo, it's a competitive game, we know that. But the 4 different modes I worry about, just like with the different of the other 3, is that some of them are going to be a little bit more fleshed out. Some of them are going to be slightly stronger. Now, the standard is just you do quests in the overworld and then you play dungeons. The exploration is you just explore on the overworld map only. Not quite sure how that's going to work considering battling is a significant portion of things. The gauntlet, where you just play dungeon section only. And then the narrative, where you do the narrative entries, decide how to progress, and then it might lead to a dungeon or an exploration. Like, I don't know how you're going to be able to mix and match those and how it's going to work from that standpoint. And is it really all going to work that well? Or would it just be better as, or let's just give one solid view of this. I don't know how compatible all there's going to be, or how fluid those are all going to be, or how easy they're going to be able to move back and forth between one and the other, especially if you have people jumping in and jumping out. That's something concerning to me. The last point, and as I'll put here at the end, the last concerning point to me is that as in Elden Ring, when you make a character, when you make a tarnished, right, you can spec it however you want. You can respec it however you want, right? And in this game, it doesn't allow you to do what Elder Scrolls Skyrim has already shown us what they're going to do, but also what Chip Theory has said they're going to do for their upcoming game is they're going to allow you to stat spec. They're going to allow you to customize your character significantly. And instead, in Elden Ring here, we are getting preset characters with preset spells, with preset weapons, and slight adaptations of traits and effects that are going to go along with the attack cards, for example. We don't get the ability to be as heavy-handed in how we want to customize our character. Or if we want to change characters, it literally says you have to get the other people to agree in your group if you can change characters between games, which I guess you can. But again, this rulebook doesn't go into how you're going to change characters, especially if you're already significantly far in the game. Like, how easy is it going to be poured over? If I've already got 2 or 3 traits established and an upgraded weapon or 2 and a bunch of runes, how easy is it going to be changed from one character to another one? How is that going to work from that standpoint? And there's nothing in the rulebook that says that either. That's concerning to me, considering, again, that's one of the main strengths of these games, is that you go, okay, I want to change who I am. I mean, a lot of people stay with one and then they play it all again, but this doesn't give me that vibe necessarily either. Final thoughts here. There's no question already right now. It's, a smashing success. I don't know what the break-even point is, though, for an IP like this. So that's going to be sort of the question mark in the background, sort of lingering. The average pledge level right now is nearly $292, but there are about 16% of backers that do not have a pledge level selected at the time of me filming this, which is slightly higher than average. So take that for what you will. There is going to be a pledge manager. You can upgrade in the pledge manager. So we'll kind of see where it goes from here. And you know what? They're giving a lot of stretch goals that are going to be included. As you'll notice, I did not mention that value is going to be there. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that the value isn't there, especially with all of the add-ons and the exclusives in the stretch goals and unreveals that are there. I mean, that's not a point here that I'm going to make, because that's low-hanging fruit one way or the other, depending on how you feel, depending on what you want to make the argument to be in terms of number of components or in terms of overall price float. You can make that argument either way. That's not one that's worth debating, because if you're watching this in the first place, you can probably afford it one way or the other in the first place. So that one is a little bit of a push either way, but I'll address it here at the end regardless. Those are my thoughts early on. Let me know what you think. Let me know what your thoughts are. Stay classy. See you around.